Migratory birds. 5 different long-distance migrants. Long-distance migrants move thousands of kilometers each year, from their breeding grounds to their wintering grounds, and then back again. Most have stopover sites where they rest for a while and then continue with their long trek. Then you get the staging sites where birds rest and feed, where there is abundant food. These staging sites are often found at the ends of geographic barriers like mountains, deserts, and oceans. On this map you can see some migration routes, or flyways as they are called, that certain birds use to get from their breeding grounds to their wintering grounds and back again each year. In this video we will feature 5 amazing long-distance migrants. The small Arctic terns have one of the longest annual migrations of any animal on Earth. Every year, Arctic terns migrate from their breeding grounds in the Arctic Circle to their wintering grounds in the Antarctic Circle, a massive round-trip journey of about 30,000 kilometers. Literally from pole to pole and back again. They do stop over to rest and refuel at several places along the way. I found this Arctic tern at Cape Recife near Port Elizabeth on the east coast of South Africa a few years ago. It was obviously stopping over before its trip down south to the Antarctic. It was identified as a 1-year-old Arctic tern by the tern expert Tony Tree. Bar-tailed godwits that breed in Alaska travel all the way to Australia and New Zealand for winter. They undertake the longest non-stop migration of any bird. Because they can't stop to rest and refuel over the vast Pacific Ocean, they have to eat as much as possible for a few weeks before departing on their long migration, and they have to put on as much weight as possible to carry them over their long journey. So they have to carry the greatest fat loads of any migratory bird so far studied, reducing the size of their digestive organs to do so. I filmed these bar-tailed godwits near Hamburg in the Eastern Cape of South Africa in October one year. They had obviously just arrived and needed to kickstart their digestive systems again after their long fast. Here's one example of a case of a satellite-tagged godwit that left Alaska and flew non-stop for 11 days and covered a staggering 13,560 kilometers before arriving on the Tasmanian coast. What an incredible feat! The Caspian plovers breed in Central Asia and they overwinter in Kenya and Tanzania and also southern Africa. When migrating south, they don't stop over much, but on the way back to their breeding grounds, they often stop over at certain spots to rest and refuel. Apparently in the early 1900s, they were quite common in the Eastern Cape, but these days they are rare in that area. They are now much more common in the drier areas of northern Namibia, Botswana, and western Zimbabwe. They are very plentiful in October in Lochinvar National Park in Zambia before they disperse into southern Africa. We were very lucky to find this male in breeding plumage on a farm near Port Alfred a few years ago. Terek sandpipers are locally common and at least 1 million birds winter in Africa and Southwest Asia each year. They breed mainly in lowland valleys in the boreal taiga zone and the subarctic tundra from Finland to eastern Siberia. They overwinter in tropical and subtropical coasts, from western and southern Africa to Australia and all along the Indian Ocean coasts too. Here in southern Africa, they can be found all along our coastline, from the Namibian coast all along to the Mozambican coast, where they are far more plentiful. When leaving their breeding grounds, the adults leave first in about early July, and they arrive in Kenya in about August or early September. The juveniles leave the breeding grounds a month later, in August. Some young birds don't migrate back to their breeding grounds, but they will spend winter here in southern Africa. And some Terek sandpipers that are found on inland pans in southern Africa are thought to be on their way to the Namibian coast from East Africa. These teeny willow warblers only weigh about 9 grams. They undertake this massive long migration on their own to southern Africa and back each year. They breed from Ireland, east and north, through northern Europe and across to northern Russia and the Ukraine. These warblers overwinter throughout woodland and the wooded drainage lines of the Karoo. I have noticed that the small warblers like the willow warbler and the icterine warbler seem to like these acacia trees. Maybe there's a lot of food in them. They are also plentiful in woodland in southern Mozambique and eastern Botswana. The first willow warblers reach southern Africa in about late September, and the peak arrival down in the Eastern Cape is early December. They start leaving for their breeding grounds from late February, but it has been noticed that the main departure is usually simultaneous in about March-April, and it's probably because of shortening daylight hours and less availability of insects at that time of the year. Or maybe the first cold front of the season chases them back north. I find it incredibly interesting that these teeny little warblers can undertake such long-distance journeys on their own. This video footage is of one foraging in my garden in Grahamstown one summer, and it was singing beautifully while it was doing so. So to conclude, migration is triggered by several factors like the shortening of day length, lower temperatures, a decrease in food supplies like insects, and their genetic predisposition. How they navigate and prepare for such long migration is a topic for another video, so watch this space.
Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe and post any comments you have down below.